Entrepreneurship is not new to Birmingham. For years, small businesses have thrived right here in our city. The key is gaining knowledge by using the resources all around. Birmingham is eager to help grow and establish your business. Attending Small Business Week will help you craft your business online, uncover key financial strategies, customer service strategies, and so much more. Birmingham is filled with creative individuals with raw talent. Let's make your vision reality. Small Business Week, Birmingham. Entrepreneurship is not new to Birmingham. For years, small businesses have thrived right here in our city. The key is gaining knowledge by using the resources all around. Birmingham is eager to help grow and establish your business. Attending Small Business Week will help you craft your business online, uncover key financial strategies, customer service strategies, and so much more. Birmingham is filled with creative individuals with raw talent. Let's make your vision reality. Small Business Week, Birmingham. Entrepreneurship is not new to Birmingham. For years, small businesses have thrived right here in our city. The key is gaining knowledge by using the resources all around. Birmingham is eager to help grow and establish your business. Attending Small Business Week will help you craft your business online, uncover key financial strategies, customer service strategies, and so much more. Birmingham is filled with creative individuals with raw talent. Let's make your vision reality. Small Business Week, Birmingham. Entrepreneurship is not new to Birmingham. For years, small businesses have thrived right here in our city. The key is gaining knowledge by using the resources all around. Birmingham is eager to help grow and establish your business. Attending Small Business Week will help you craft your business online, uncover key financial strategies, customer service strategies, and so much more. Birmingham is filled with creative individuals with raw talent. Let's make your vision reality. Small Business Week, Birmingham. Entrepreneurship is not new to Birmingham. For years, small businesses have thrived right here in our city. The key is gaining knowledge by using the resources all around. Birmingham is eager to help grow and establish your business. Attending Small Business Week will help you craft your business online, uncover key financial strategies, customer service strategies, and so much more. Birmingham is filled with creative individuals with raw talent. Let's make your vision reality. Small Business Week, Birmingham.
To me,
Entrepreneurship is not new to Birmingham. For years, small businesses have thrived right here in our city. The key is gaining knowledge by using the resources all around. Birmingham is eager to help grow and establish your business. Attending Small Business Week will help you craft your business online, uncover key financial strategies, customer service strategies, and so much more. Birmingham is filled with creative individuals with raw talent. Let's make your vision reality. Small Business Week, Birmingham.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to Small Business Week 2022. I am so excited that you are here with us as we nationally celebrate our small businesses. But most importantly, we are excited to highlight our businesses right here in Birmingham. We are so excited that you are here with us today. And so this year kicks off our theme around financial, digital, and customer-centric strategies for growth, y'all. We have to know that the world is changing. I don't know about you, but we might be going to the metaverse. Now, I don't want to be no avatar, but no matter what, we have to be ready as small business owners for what's coming down the pipeline. And so today we're going to talk about how to grow and scale these businesses. I want to thank our sponsors, ASL Creative Firm, Professional Technology and Graphic Design, and Gilberto Herrera for supporting us for Small Business Week 2022. So really quickly, I need to ask you guys a question. Now, we got to talk about it. So in order to scale, you have to know how to clearly know where you're going and where you want to be. And not only does it take clarity on your business finances, but we have to creatively and strategically grow our team to help us get to the next level. So, have you ever found yourself saying, running my business takes too much time, or I do not have enough time to really critically think about my business? What about this one? I know I need help, but I don't know where to start. So, when we talk about the status of our business, if you ever said any of those things, chances are, y'all, it's time to understand how to scale. Okay. So I have a few more questions. Do you know where to start when trying to scale your business? Are there certain systems and processes that you have in place? And the really, really important question is, do you trust other people to help you to grow this business? Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, today is for you. And I have some amazing people who are here to help me kick off Small Business Week and get through this conversation of scaling. I have Melva Tate of Tate and Associates, Desiree Tyree of Account for Data, and Trisha Coleman of Coleman and Company LLC and MCFT Picnic. So we're going to hear from this amazing panel of superhero women a little later. But before anything else, we're going to get started. We want to hear from Melva. Hey, girl. Hey, how are you?
Hey, girl. Hey, Alicia, so good to be here.
Yes, we are so glad to have you. You are now a Small Business Week vet in the game.
Yes,
Okay.
I
And
am. Yes,
so
I
we're
am.
glad that you're here with us. And Melva is an expert in all things HR, all things development. And so we're so glad that our small businesses here in Birmingham can hear from you and just glean from your wisdom. So we are going to sit back. I'm going to get my paper and my pen. I might be old school while you drop these gems. And so she's going to kick us off with some high level strategies of things to think through as we get ready for scaling. After she's finished, I'm going to come back and then we'll talk to Desiree. So Melva, take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I do agree with Alicia. Grab your pen and paper and jot down some of these things as I talk about really 5 C's on what you can do for your business as you look at scaling. And of course, we know that scaling is all about setting the stage or proactively setting the stage so that you can create the roadmap for your success around the growth for your organization. So there are a couple of things that I'm going to share with you. And again, the first one really is around control. So around control, I want you to think about controlling your pace as you can look at growing your business. You'll have people around you who say, well, you should do this or that. Go with what's in your heart and in your mind as far as your growth goes. Don't let anybody else push you too far outside of your comfort zone. And then also, I recommend that individuals small business before they become an employer as long as they can, because certainly when we talk about HR, becoming an employer has a lot more intricate details and responsibilities than being a small business. So stay that way as long as you can and make sure it matches up with your growth goals and strategies. And then the other thing I'll say about that, although I said stay a small business as long as you can, don't go solo too long, right? Because I think if you go solo too long, then eventually you are flying so low because you're trying to do everything by yourself that you won't reach that growth potential that your organization could probably have. So, and I tried to do that for a long time, tried to wear so many hats, and I realized I needed a team. So that's what we're really going to talk about is how do you create that team and those individuals that's going to help you in your success. I also say communicate. You definitely want to communicate. You want to put your plans in writing. They're not written in stone, so you can certainly be flexible and agile and change them as necessary, but everybody needs a plan or a roadmap. And you certainly want to share that plan even at this early stage with your advisors or consultants or your leadership team so that they know what growth looks like from your vantage point for your organization. So make sure you're sharing that information. And then I also say, be committed to the growth. You know, it does not come easy. Some, it comes a lot easier than others, but be committed to saying, I'm going to stick with this through the tough times. I'm going to be committed to my processes and I'm going to grow. And look, we have to be agile. And I know that COVID taught us all in small business that we needed to be as agile and as flexible as possible to be able to continue to serve those who we love through our passion and our purpose. So you got those 3 C's off the top: control, communicate, commit. Now I really want to talk about your team and your culture that you want to establish. So here's a couple of things I want you to think about. For your culture, you're going to need a team. As I said, you don't want to fly solo in doing this business. And usually if you look at the progression and from a scaling standpoint of who helps you and who supports your team, you're probably going to automatically think about, if you just close your eyes and think about who's the first person who's helped me thus far, it's probably going to be a family member or a friend. That's how most businesses get started, by a family member or friend loaning their hands or their mind or their talents to help you get started in what you want to do. And so friends and family will be first. Then you may have people who volunteer and just really want to help you and help your growth. That may be for a particular project or an event that you're having. Then you may shift to having someone with a little bit more structure, like an intern. So you may get an intern in, and those could be paid interns or unpaid interns with a specific task or goal that they're trying to accomplish during their time with you. So you really move from friends, family, volunteers to interns, and then you may end up with a contractor. And that's how most small businesses really start tapping into that unique talent that they need. So you may contract with someone like me in HR or a graphic artist or someone in marketing or events for your particular area or field. And those will be your 1099 individuals. And so as long as you're still dealing with those interns or those family members or those volunteers or those contractors, you're still in that small business phase. And then you may be ready to switch over to, now I'm ready to truly be an employer, a small employer versus a small business. And so that's when you're hiring people, bringing them on board, the W-2 and all the payroll taxes and everything that comes along with that type of relationship. So that's a really true progression from how you get started with the team that you need to where you may end up. But one of the things I really want to stress is, because we're in a very tough job market now, and that is that you want to start developing a pipeline of talent now that you could tap into as your business continue to grow. One example I've used, if I am interacting with someone and I think they're just a rock star at whatever they're doing, their talent, it could be a waitress, it could be someone that I'm partnering with as a board member, I'm looking at that unique talent and skill set and saying, I would love to work with that person one day. So I'm planting those seeds already so that as I continue to grow, I know that these are people or those skill sets that I want to tap into. And then I also think it's really good to understand your team. You know, I'm a DISC facilitator, and I always talk about how different personalities work well and different skill sets work well on teams. So just knowing your team and knowing how you can pull from their strengths, because where one may have a great strength around communicating, the other one may be very analytical and maybe your quality control person. So kind of knowing how personalities are shaped on your team and how to leverage them is going to be very helpful for you in the long run. And then I want you to make sure you're thinking about your perks and benefits. What is your pay philosophy? Do you want to come into the market saying, I want to lead the market in pay so no one's ever able to come and snatch my people away from me? Do you want to lag the market because you've got all this other great stuff, but you're going to be a great company to work for, but you may not be able to pay the greatest salaries? Or do you want to meet the market right in the middle? And then having some standard benefits as well as you continue to grow, adding them one at a time. You don't have to add everything all at once. And then you may also want to think of some out of the box type of benefits that you can offer to your team as well. Then I'll say on the compliance side, you got to be proactive versus reactive, because as you continue to build your brand, build your organization, build your business, scale your business, you need to protect your brand at all costs. And so one of the things that I do, and really from a compliance standpoint, is making sure that I'm doing those right things legally for my business. Also, you want to make sure that anyone that you got on your leadership team or will be managing people or making decisions for you are trained in that area. So you can't do enough training, whether that's on the job training or technical training, for those individuals who will be helping support your mission and moving your mission forward, whatever that may be. Making sure these people have the talent and that they're well trained to do that as well. And then I'll also say the meat of it is your policies. You want to be compliant, again, because the government is out there. Not only have they set the standards on what we should do as a business, whether we're a small business or an employer, but they also regulate that. They don't just say it and have it on paper, but they will follow up to make sure that we're doing those things. So like having mandatory policies in place as your company grow based on your size. So if you're you're looking at a company that has 5 employees or a company that has 50 employees, well, FMLA may not dictate that company has to offer FMLA, where your small business may not have to do that. Other ones will do that. Optional policies to hold people accountable, like attendance and performance. And then also making sure that you put things in writing, like good policy guidelines, like good handbooks and standard operating procedures. All of those things are going to make sure that you can hold people accountable and you're consistent in your operations. And then the last thing I'll just say from a compliance standpoint is that you want to document everything. You want to have a good system in place where you have good documents and you keep good records as it relates to your team. And that's around anything, whether you're recruiting talent, whether you're trying to manage that talent, develop that talent. It is going to be so important to have good tools in place. Now, listen, we're in a society that has an app for everything. There's an app for everything. So I would strongly suggest that there are tons out there. I can tell you if you have a particular issue, whether that's a human resource management database or an application tracking or whatever you may need, there's a system out there, usually in a moderate price range, that can help you support your businesses. But if you take nothing out of what I've said thus far, when we talk about scaling, don't try to do it solo. You've got to have a great team in place, and you can develop that team over time, but have a vision of what you want, start putting in writing, and map out how that great team will support you as you continue to grow and develop your business. So I can't wait to the questions that are at the end. If I hit on any particular issue that you're interested in around compliance or culture or just controlling your process, I'm going to be waiting around and ready to answer those questions for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melva. So I usually like to just take my own notes, and I'm a sticky note girl. So listen, one of the things that stood out to me is Melva said, don't play. I don't care if you're at a restaurant, you get your car washed, you see somebody who has a good work ethic, and you see that there's something on them, y'all, we got to recruit. Mm-hmm. I think it's so important because, to your point, the job market and the workforce development is such a different playing field right now. And so you made mention of making sure that you have some out of the box benefits. You really think through how can you incentivize and help people. I think we have to be very mindful, especially now when we talk about building a team.
Mm-hmm.
You better come correct, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
people are turning things down. But if you, like you said, have your vision, you know where you're
Mm-hmm.
going, you can build your team, you can recruit some people, and you can get creative around your benefits. I think sometimes as a small business owner, you automatically think like, I don't have enough money
Mm-hmm.
to bring anybody on. So you're saying, listen, we fly so low to we so low, right? And so what you're admonishing us to do is get creative in building that team. Do you have some family members? You have some friends who are, talented in that area, right? You're out at the restaurant and you see somebody who has something about them. Let's get creative. But most importantly, I think, especially when you talk about building a team and culture, think about how you want to treat your people. What's going to make people show up? The reason we're in this situation now, even with the Great Resignation, is because people were like, listen, you got it. you can keep it, right? Because it was so stressful, because these work environments, they really weren't conducive for people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as small business owners, and even most of the small business owners I know, they also are part of this Great Resignation. So they know the feeling of being in these environments. So when you're thinking about building your team, think about what type of environment you want to be in, and what are some of the things you wish folks would have done for you. And you may not have the biggest amount of money to get it done, but that's where creativity comes from. And that's what makes small business owners so magical, right? Is that we know how to do what needs to be done with what we have. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Melva. I appreciate you. We're going to bring you back a little later on. And so now we want to kick it off to Desiree as she talks to us about some key financial strategies we need to think through. Hey, girl. Hey. So I'm excited to talk to you and for people to hear from you today, because one of the things that's so important, like I was just talking about with Melva, is that when you're starting a small business or you're in the thick of your business, you're always trying to think through, how can I save money to put this back in my business to help it to grow? And so one of the unique things that you offer and that you help us to think through is, as a small business owner, how can I start doing it, right? What are some of the tools and templates and things that I need to go ahead and get started and get these things kicked off for myself? So I'm excited for us to be able to hear from you and share some 3 kind of key high-level strategies around how to think about our finances in regard to scaling. So take it away.
I'm here to help. Okay. Well, again, I'm Desiree Tyree, and I'm from Account for Data, and I'm going to go over some things you should take into consideration from an accounting perspective when you're trying to scale. But first, I can't see y'all. I can't read the room. So you're on Facebook. If you could give me a heart if you are doing this business full time. If this is a side job, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't started your business yet, just give me those yellow faces that are like hugging the hearts. And I just want to get a good idea of where everyone is coming from. So on this first slide, you'll see that I wanted to show you the difference between growth and scale. So growth is when you decide to grow your business or grow revenue by investing in additional resources, so like buying equipment or opening a new location, for example. And a lot of times what is driving the growth in this situation is that you have spent more money on your expenses. So your expenses increase by 25%, your revenue increases by 25%, and your profit increases by 25%. And the result is an overall increase in profit of 25%, but there's no increase in profit margin. And this is just generally how growth strategies work. And a lot of the times when an accountant is making a budget, this is what they'll do. They'll say, okay, your revenue is growing by 25%, so your budget and all of these other expenses for your business will increase by 25% as well. However, using a scaling strategy, what you're trying to do is increase your revenue by increasing your efficiency and capacity. So in this example, you are going to increase your revenue by 25%, but your expenses are only going to increase by 5%. So overall, your profit is increasing by 37%, which is a 12% difference between the two. And just to illustrate this a little further, at the bottom, you'll see how I have this played out numerically. So in the first column, where you see original, you see your original revenue, expenses, and profit. So originally you had $100,000, your expenses were $75,000, and your profit is $25,000. So let's say you decide to grow, you decide to buy some new equipment that's going to increase your revenue by 25%. So now your revenue is $125,000. Your expenses increased by 25% to $94,000. And now your profit has increased. It's better than $25,000. It's $31,000. So overall, you're doing great. However, if you scale, if you can think of a way to make your processes more efficient, increase your capacity without spending as much, your margin, your profit will be 12% higher. So you can see their expenses only went up to $79,000 and their profit is $46,000. So now you have much more profit, much more cash flow to invest in scaling and buying that new equipment than you would have if you hadn't done that. So the bottom line is that scaling is more profitable if you can do it right. If you can figure out a way to make your business more efficient and increase your revenue with what you have, then you should do that instead of just going out and spending money on things that you think may increase your revenue. And we can go to the next slide now. So on this slide, I just wanted to go over a few questions that you should ask yourself when determining on how to scale. So first, what's your current capacity? If nothing else changed, like your resources stayed the same, you didn't hire anybody else, you didn't buy any more software, any more equipment. If your resources stayed the same, how many more sales, how many more clients, how many more jobs could you handle? Ask yourself, could you be more efficient? Could you streamline your processes so that you can take on more work and still serve your customers or clients the same way or even better? The next question you should ask yourself is, at what point do you need additional resources? Now that you know what your capacity is, you should have a fairly good idea of when you need additional resources. And then you have to think about which resources are going to run out first. For a lot of us, it's time. We just don't have the time to take on more clients. And so at this point, you have to ask yourself, okay, where should I go from here? Should I get contractors, part-time workers, full-time workers? And if you do hire more workers, then you might need to increase your software capacity. You may need to get more logins, and that might be an additional expense. Maybe your software runs out first, and then you have to increase the capacity of your software. So you need to figure out what point do you need additional resources? So you have that in your mind of how much capacity you can take on. At this point, when you've answered the questions of what's your current capacity, at what point you need additional resources, then you have to figure out, can you afford additional resources? So can you afford additional resources? Well, the additional revenue you generate from getting these additional clients cover the resources you need. And one way to figure this out is to create a cash flow forecast to get a general idea of how this will play out. And then you should explore your options before making a decision. And then keep those options on the back burner just in case your primary or your original choice doesn't play out. The last question you should ask yourself is, what's the ROI? And ROI is return on investment. So how much revenue will you generate by increasing your resources? If you hire help, how many more clients will you be able to serve? This is something you should monitor anytime you increase your resources. Estimate how much more revenue you expect to generate or save and how long you expect to get that back. If you're not seeing that return, you should reevaluate your choices and try to determine what's the cause of why you didn't get that return. Maybe you weren't using it optimally. Maybe there's something different you could do that would increase the return on your investment. And also I want to mention that ROI doesn't have to be measured monetarily. It could save you time, increase customer satisfaction, or improve quality. These are all just different measurements of how you could measure the return on your investment. And so we can go to the next slide. So here are just a few key highlights, things that I want everyone to pay attention to when they're thinking about scaling. First, you should track costs. I encourage everyone to use accounting software to keep up with their financial data. The most well-known report is the profit and loss statement, also known as the income statement. But however, you should also be looking at the balance sheet and the statement of cash flows regularly. You should keep your bookkeeping up to date so that you know how much you're spending and what you're spending it on. I mean, you still might be paying for things you don't need anymore or stuff you thought you stopped paying for months ago. Calculate your expenses as a percentage of revenue and then track your costs over time. This will alert you to changes in costs and help you become more efficient. Next, you need to pay attention to your return on investment, just as I previously mentioned, because most of the time you increase resources for some purpose. You're increasing your resources because you want a return. So whether it is to make money, save money, decrease your time spent, increase customer satisfaction, or increase productivity, you have to find a way to measure the return, set expectations, and monitor how it's fulfilling your expectations. And it may be easier to measure in some type of customer satisfaction value or something like that, but it all comes down to the bottom line. So you really want to make sure that you're not just wasting your money on things you don't need. Third, use scalable solutions. You want to be able to expand or contract easily. So whenever possible, try to find solutions that are easy to scale up or down if you no longer need it, or if business is slow and you don't need all this capacity that you're paying for. Fortunately, a lot of businesses today offer different levels or packages, but this could also take the form of a lease or buy decision. So if you don't have the cash flow to buy something that you don't know you will necessarily need or may not be as productive, if you're just making a bet, you might want to see if you can just lease it for a year or two and then see how it plays out. Next, you need to make a budget and monitor it. So if you budget your sales to be a certain amount one month, check it and see why you either met your budget or didn't. If you budgeted your advertising expense to be $1,500 in April, for example, then around this time, you should probably be going back. And if it's $3,500 instead of $1,500, you should dig into it and find out why. So all of this will help you save money. And plus, once you start monitoring it, you'll be more motivated to make decisions that will improve performance. The last thing I have on here is to create a cash flow projection. Cash flows don't always correspond with profit. So if you've ever looked at your profit and loss statement and you look at your bank account and they are totally different, this will tell you why. So if you have a lot of accounts receivable, you haven't received money for accounts receivable. That's just money that you're sort of loaning out to your customers until they decide to pay it. The same way with accounts payable, you're sort of doing the same to other companies. When you have accounts payable, you haven't paid anybody yet. So you still have that cash in your business. If you have depreciation, though, that's not any cash flow. So that is not affecting your bottom line also. So also, if your business is seasonal, you'll want to know whether or not you have enough cash flow to weather the slower months. So a cash flow projection will help you estimate the actual cash coming in and out. So you'll know when you can afford to scale up. And it will also tell you when you have a cash shortage, so you can plan ahead and figure out how you can get additional funds. So these are just some general tips you can take into consideration. If you have any questions, please just type them into the chat and we'll circle back at the end to answer as many as we can. And I will kick it back to Alicia.
Desiree, thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I got a few notes that I wanted to kind of pull out from that, and so we can discuss. So one of the things I thought was really, really good is you were saying, listen, as your expenses, as you increase, right, in your profit, try not to make sure you take those expenses with it. So sometimes we have a tendency, the more money I get, oh baby, the more I'm about to spend. Yeah. So right, what you're saying is like, listen, hold your horses, pull back. As you are increasing in that revenue, let's really assess what are the actual necessities in the business to help it to grow. And I think what's really key is you were saying, hey, most of the time when we're making those more investments, the ROI might not necessarily be monetary. It might be your time. And I think that's something to consider too. But I would like to explore this. So how do we know and how do we consider what is actually going to help us to grow the business? And I think that each individual has to think through that, right? As you're making that investment and you're buying more product or you're adding more things to your business, really assess, is this going to help me to grow? If I'm going to spend $2,500 on this, can I look at my numbers and see where it's going to make me more than $2,500? Exactly. Am I going to break even? So really, guys, let's think about it. As we get more money, let's think about what we're actually spending that money on and what's the ROI. All the time, it won't be monetary, but saving time is just like saving money. It's actually a little better to me, if anybody could agree, right? And so I think that was really, really good. And also you made mention of having our cash flow forecast. So making sure we're able to see what's coming in and what is going out. And lastly, one thing that was really, really good that I thought about is really assessing and being honest with yourself about what is your current capacity. Because I think too, sometimes when we think about scale, we have to consider everything that it's going to take to grow that business, right? It means having more product on hand, more money for marketing, more 1099, more employees. And so actually sit down and ask yourself, am I ready for scaling? Or should I just implement a few more things in my business before I just go all out and I put myself on the line? And so really assessing what is the current capacity. So thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate it. And if we get any questions, we'll come back toward the end for a Q&A, but we'll still just have a round robin either way. So right now I wanted to bring in Trisha Coleman. And because I know as an entrepreneur, sometimes it can get a little challenging. It can get really challenging, and you might feel like you're all by yourself. And so, a lot of small business owners, we are navigating all of the world. Let's be clear, right? We have a small business. We are a full-time employee. I'm somebody's mama. We're doing a lot of different things, and so sometimes, as a small business owner, it can get a little overwhelming. But it feels good to hear from people and hear their stories and how they're navigating it. So we want to welcome new friend. Hey girl, how you doing?
Hey.
We thank you so much for joining us. And this part of the conversation is just really so small business owners can hear someone's story. They can find something in it that they can resonate with. And then we can kind of just navigate what it means to scale and how to navigate these different things. So if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your businesses, because you actually operate two businesses, right? So you have Coleman and Company, then you have MCFT Picnics. And so just tell us a little bit more about your businesses and what they do.
Well, I want to start by saying thank you for inviting me to speak on this panel and to share all the knowledge I've gained. It's been a long 17 years. I started Coleman and Company in 2005. I became an LLC in 2008. And just learning as I go along. So like if I can help anybody else shorten that learning curve, I'm all for it. So I would say the first interaction I had that made me say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I used to work for a video store in high school and then like my first 2 years of college. And it was just a regular, ordinary couple. And they had 5 locations. So I'm from Hampton Roads. So there's like 7 cities, but they had like a video store in all the cities. And so I was like, well, if they can do it, I definitely can do it because there's like regular people. But I didn't have anybody to teach me. I didn't have a role model growing up, anybody in the family who had a business. So I kind of was just like, okay, let me just go to college, get a job. That's the information we get is go to college, get a good job. And so I was an accounting major. So I wanted to start a CPA firm, and I wanted to only hire Black accountants because it was hard for us to get employment. My sister said, no, that's discrimination. You can't do that. And then, so then I worked for a book retailer. I won't say the name. And one day the power went out. So they sent us home early. And I went and I found my LLC. And so I knew it was God. I just heard this voice saying, go file it today. Because like I knew if I didn't do it then, I wasn't going to do it. And I ended up getting laid off a month later. So I was like, okay. I started a tax practice with a old coworker. And that's something, tidbit, make sure you're on the same page with people that you partner with business. And we ended up dissolving it because we were just in 2 different places in life and in mindset. And so when I moved here, my pastor's brother gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad, gave me a copy of it. But I was so young when I moved here. I was 23, 24. I didn't have the maturity or the competency to grasp all the knowledge that's in that book. And so I fast forward, I say 3 years ago, I did a real estate investing course. And they taught us, they modeled themselves off of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki principles. And they taught us what's the difference between being self-employed and being an entrepreneur and being an investor. And so it just took me so long to get out of that employee mindset, out of wanting to own everything, have my name on everything, getting out of that whole, I want to sound important. I got to have this important title or people won't take me seriously. And then, of course, I know we have people of other ethnicities watching, but being a Black woman, also having that race aspect of, okay, do I show myself or do I get like a white homegirl or, a white guy to be the face of the business so people will actually buy from me? Because you have a lot of insecurity when you get into business, and people don't like to talk about that vulnerability at all. But that's me. I'm just transparent. I'll just tell you what I know. And so through that course, and then over the years, it's just been every year I caution everybody else to do this too. While I strongly encourage any business program there is, join it, especially if it's free. People don't value free, but that's been the best. I've gotten the best information from free business programs where you learn you can Google business structures, but you learn exactly what they do and how to, like as an LLC, how to be taxed as an S Corp. You learn the differences. You learn that the key to being an entrepreneur is to not own anything. And you say, what? That doesn't make sense. It does, because you don't want to be liable. Your business itself, especially when you're a corporation, is separate from you. As an LLC, you have limited liability. And if you don't do all your paperwork, as Melva said, and as Desiree said, you don't keep your records correctly, it's called piercing the corporate veil. So people can still sue you. They can take your house, your car, everything that you own if you don't know what you're doing. And I think a lot of people have that fear of, I don't want to lose anything. I don't want to get out there and look stupid. So I'm just crazy enough to look stupid. Like, as long as I know what form to file, as long as I know sort of kind of what I'm doing, I'm like, okay, I know this won't get me in trouble. And then when I learn more stuff, I'll start doing that. So now I have Coleman and Company, which I started off doing business support services, bookkeeping, admin, data entry, a little bit of marketing. I was doing some of everything. Anything that helped support a business, I was like, I can do it. And then I started consulting and helping my friends start LLC. And they would refer me to other people. And they're like, yeah, I want you to help me file an LLC. And so now that I've grown in my knowledge, I'm like, okay, I really shouldn't be telling people to file LLCs. I should be telling them to do S Corp or a C Corp and become, to work themselves out of a job. So that's the key. That's what I think from my piece of the puzzle is I want people to work themselves out of being an employee, out of being self-employed, and start living that lifestyle of where you get distributions, you get cash flow, you get paid off the profits of your business and any other business you invest in. So that's kind of like I guess I say the gospel that I'm preaching now is that passive income, multiple sources of income lifestyle. But right now I have a picnic business and a scavenger hunt food tour business. And so that's one of the companies that I'm going to put under Coleman and Company. I'm working on that process now. So I'm very transparent of right now I'm an LLC. I'm working towards becoming an S Corp so I can on paper buy my business and all the other business. I also have a business camp I'm starting up to teach young people financial literacy, business education, how to start a business, so that they're not like me, like, what am I going to do when, I graduate or when I get out of high school? You don't have to live the lifestyle you saw your parents live, like worried about bills, living paycheck to paycheck. You can start doing things now and just change your mindset on, okay, I don't want to be an employee. And just because you own a business doesn't mean you're not an employee. You're still self-employed. And until you, like Melva said, build a team, until you incorporate systems. And when I say system, I mean processes where if I give it to you, you can do what I do and have the same output. Like, it's like I've done it, but I don't put my hands on it. Now, if you don't have it set up where your team members or anybody you contract can take what you have written down or learn your system and have, when I say system in that respect, I mean, like, if you're doing QuickBooks, if you're doing Honeybook, I use Honeybook for my picnic business, or any other CRM that you're using, if they can't produce it exactly the way you have set for the standard for your business consistently, then you don't have a system. And that's one of the things we're not taught, is that banks fund systems. They don't fund because you have a business idea. There's 1,000 restaurants, there's 1,000 any type of retail store. They fund systems. That's why it's easier for you to get funding for a franchise than it is for, if I say, oh, I want to start an ice cream shop. well, I can get funded to get started Dairy Queen before I can get funded for, Trisha's ice cream treats, because they want something proven. They want something where it's an RI. Desiree said that earlier. And they want to make sure they get their money back. Investors want to see the same thing. They want to see, do you have systems? If I bring on business partners to help you with what you're lacking, is this going to work? Once you learn business and financial literacy, you're like, oh, like I'm just trying to collect checks and get deposits. I'm not trying to clock in anymore. I'm not trying to have a boss. I'm not trying to come in. I want to have my own employees and management, general manager, whatever. And what my goal is for my picnic side of my business, my food tour side of my business, is to be like the Uber of picnics and food tours, where, people in different cities and states can use my company brand and use my inventory, and they can do the same thing and build income. If they want to build their own teams, that's fine. But that's what my goal is now. So I hope.
Listen, girl, you just dropped the whole mouthful talking about I hope. Girl, okay, listen. So I'm gonna, per usual, I'm gonna pull out a few things. I want to start from the latter part of what you said. And I want us to just write this down and keep it in our memory bank, that banks fund systems. I think that was such a good gem to drop, because we know that there's a lot of conversations now around access to capital for Black and brown people, right? How do we get these ideas funded? And so I think we hear scale a lot, we hear capital, and we also hear systems a whole lot. But I think that was a great point, that banks fund systems. They want to know, how are you going to make this money and how are you going to make it back? Black and white. I don't care about nothing else. Right. And so I think
they want it really documented in a book. They want a binder. They want it ABC. First you turn on the light, then you cut on the coffee machine. Then they want to document it like that.
And that's good to know. And so again, when we talk about systems, sometimes I think systems we need to demystify that a little bit, right? So do you have a CRM, right? A customer relationships management software? Do you have a way to track your customers, right? So say, for instance, if someone makes an inquiry into your business, from the moment they make that inquiry, how do we take them through a process to make sure that we get them as a paying customer? That's a part of having a system. So like she made mention of, you can use a HoneyBooks, right? You can use multiple different things to be able to track people in your business. So also when we talk about our systems, automations, right? How do we automate some of these processes? Because it can get a little daunting getting into the weed of these tasks. So if someone sends me an email, I can set up something through a Zapier or something like that, where it pings every single time someone sends an email. It sends them back a welcome email. Then it sends them back an inquiry if they don't reply within 2 hours. Then it sends them back a follow-up like, hey, I know I saw you on my website 2 weeks ago, right? So automations, how do we automate some of these processes so we're not sitting up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning sending out these individual emails, and then we lose clients in the fray, right? Because they don't hear back from us. Right. And as a consumer, if in the world of Amazon, baby, when I can get something delivered on my porch in 2 hours, if you don't respond to me, I'm on to the next person. I'm on to the next company. So when we talk about systems, it's automating some of these things. It's having that CRM, right? Making it easy for people to pay you, right? So, no shade, no tea, but like everything doesn't need to be Cash App. Do we need to have a link? We need to be able to track how we're getting paid, because it goes back to what Desiree was saying, is that we need to be able to know our cash flow. But I can't know my cash flow if I had somebody pay Venmo and PayPal over here and then this over there, that somebody can put some cash in my hand. Then we can't get that great idea funded, because we have nothing to take to a bank, right? We have nothing to take to family and friends to show them how we're making money and how we plan to keep that money coming and pay people back. So I think that was extremely, extremely good. So thank you for making mention of that. But then also I wanted to touch on too, this myth that we kind of need to break around being an entrepreneur. So I think when we talk about mindset, it's like, I do everything. That's the only way I know I own it. This is my business, right? And you know what's crazy too, Trisha, that I want to talk about is just now with this great resignation, and we have so many new amazing entrepreneurs, people are like, I don't want to work for nobody. Well, the reality is, baby, you're going to always work for somebody, because you're going to be working for your client, right? Whoever your customer is, we're working for somebody. So our marketing, our systems, when we talk about those systems are in place for our boss, which is our customers, which are our customers. So I think that's really important to note. And so breaking that mindset of, hey, what's the difference between being self-employed and being an entrepreneur? That is key. And so there's a book that I read called The Cash Flow Quadrant, right?
Yes.
Saved by Robert Kiyosaki. Yes, and that's a good book. I would admonish you all to read that. The Cash Flow Quadrant. It breaks down the different ways you have to think about cash flow and how you're able to move throughout that system from starting a business and being the only one running it to, like she was saying, making that passive income from your business, freeing yourself up then to start new ventures, right? Because the goal is ultimately to diversify what it is that we're doing. And the only way we can grow is if we are not in it every single day in the weeds of what it takes to keep this business functional. So I feel like you were getting ready to say something, but I mean, I was just going. What were you getting ready to say?
I was going to say that book tells you that as an entrepreneur, you own systems. Like as a self-employed small business owner, you own that business idea. You own the operations of it. But as an entrepreneur, you own systems. Meaning you can go into different industries, you can own multiple businesses, but you're not the operator, you just own it. Well, actually once you incorporate, the business owns itself, but you got ownership of it because you file the paperwork and have your name on it. But that's the key. Like once I got that nugget, I was like, oh, because I'm the type, I want to do some of everything. And I think a lot of us fall into that. I want to start this type of business, this type of business. And my husband would say, hold on, do one thing, make that successful, then move to the next. I was like, but I got an opportunity for this person wants this, da, 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 da. But once I learned that nugget of, once I own systems, then I can make that work. I can build a team. I can get contractors to do it, make sure they can do it just the way I would do it. And then I can move on to the next one. And I have the skills and the knowledge to not manage, but to oversee my investment. So yeah,
of course.
That's all I wanted to chime in and say.
No, that's good. And so when we talk about that too, another thing to bring out of the conversation is that also takes leadership, right? So it takes leadership because we have to know how to duplicate ourselves in these systems. Because one of the conversations, like I may mention at the very beginning, is like, we don't trust anybody. I don't trust nobody with my baby, right? But the baby got to grow up,
Right.
And so like a part of it is us duplicating ourselves in these systems so that these things can carry on. And that's another conversation for another time, but about how really the goal to starting most companies is to have an exit strategy. Especially now, right, we have so many companies that are selling for hundreds and millions of dollars, but the only way they can do that is they started the business with the exit strategy. Mm-hmm. Most of the time when we start a business, we like, listen, baby, I'm gonna be here for 40 years, 50 years, right? And if that is your goal, that's okay. But we're having a conversation around scaling. And so when we talk about scaling, we refine these systems. We put them in place with a goal for exiting out of that company, because that's where real wealth generation is, right? When we can take these ideas, we take our intellectual property, we put systems around them, and we exit these companies. We generate the money from that, and then we start another idea. Because I feel confident enough to say that most of us have multiple ideas and multiple businesses on the inside of us. And so the only way to be able to execute on those things is we have to start these businesses with a strategy of how to scale them, how to duplicate ourselves in these systems. Yep. Right. Duplicating ourselves in these systems, like Melva was teaching us, really getting our understanding of our cash flow and the return on our investment, and how are we tracking our money, like Desiree was talking, and like you're admonishing us, think about, okay, how do I work myself out of doing all of this every day, right?
I would say the most discouraging thing for me was to say, okay, I have it in me to be a business owner, but then I'm working more hours and I'm not getting money. So it's like, why did I leave this job, or why didn't I go get another job? And that's why I would go back and get a job, because it's like, okay, I'm doing more work than I was doing clocking in, but I'm not seeing the return of all this work I'm doing. Reaching out, getting clients is hard. But when you get systems, once I got that, I was like, oh, that's not as hard as I thought it was. But you don't know that information. You know, you have to, somebody has to tell it to you, or you just learn as you go. But yeah, that's my thing. If I can help people cut through it, I'm like, yeah, do this, file this, do this, and you need to have a meeting every month. And you need to do this, and then think about, like you say, your exit strategy, because your kids may not want it, you know. So you can't say, oh, I'm gonna pass this on to my kids and build generational wealth. They might be like, no, I want to be a ballerina. Like my child wants to be a botanist. So I'm like, okay, well, she probably won't want it. And my little ones are too small for me to be, you know, forcing them into it.
Yeah.
But like, I want to own everything. So that's like, I saw that. I was a part of a venture capitalist group, and one guy said, oh, I just sold my company for a lot of money. I won't tell the man's business. And he bought another business. And I was like, oh, you can do that? Mm-hmm. So that was about 13 years ago. So that, exit strategy. You definitely need to think about that.
Absolutely. Having an exit strategy. And one more kind of just phrase or word I want to put out there for you all to look into is because sometimes we have people who are really thinking about entrepreneurship. Like, you know, they may not have an idea that they know they want to act on, but there is something else called ETA. So it's entrepreneurship through acquisition. So it's acquiring, very similar to what you were saying, acquiring other companies. Like, listen, I don't have an idea. I just know I want to own a company. So you can also become an entrepreneurship through acquiring other companies. So there's so many different ends to being able to become a small business owner and get to the point of scaling, right? And so I appreciate the conversation, because I think it's really important for us to think about how we want to position it. A lot of things that I tell people when I'm working with them is start with the end in mind. Like, where do you want to go? Start with scale in mind. Don't just say, okay, I'm going to start this, you know, this little pop-up, and then, you know, we'll see how it goes. No, I want you to dream. Where are you trying to go? Where do you want to take this thing? Then we can make sure we have the systems to get you where it is that you're trying to go. So it's just really important to start with scale in mind. So I just appreciate you for sharing your story and sharing your insight and the things that, you know, you have learned. And so before we kind of wrap up this part of the conversation, if you could give us one thing that you like, man, I wish somebody would have told me this. What's your one? Because I hate being in situations. I'm like, I wish somebody would have told me. So what's your one? I wish someone would have told me this in regard to thinking about scaling and how to prepare for it.
I had so much written down. Yeah, see, I'm looking at my notes because I wrote down a whole lot. What I wish I had known is the difference between an LLC and an S Corp and a C Corp. Like, I knew what business structures were. I didn't know how that worked. And I thought that was only for companies that wanted to go public. I didn't, because, you know, I was an accounting major, and I was an accountant for some years. So I was like, okay, that's not for me. I'll just do LLC, protect my house and my car, and blah, blah, blah. I didn't realize that for, like you said, start with the end in mind for where I want to go. And I have a really big dream that I needed to start incorporating my business, like as an S Corp or a C Corp. That not having everything in my name. Like, you need to establish business, your own business identity, business credit. Everything needs to go through your business and not you using your personal credit to acquire stuff. If somebody had taught me that, I would be on the Forbes list right now. So
listen, girl, listen, I'm a woman of faith. You're on your way. Okay?
I'm on my way. Yeah, I'm on my way, but I'm saying I just turned 40 last week. I would have already been on the Forbes list. I'd have been the 30 under 30. I would have.
Okay. Well, happy belated birthday. And just to kind of put a bow on that as well, having your own business identity. So most of you already have that. So kudos to you. But we still may have the opportunity to make sure that we're running all of our stuff through our business credit, through those business bank accounts, right? Yes. Having a business number, a business address, even if you have to get a virtual address, right? Like, making sure that we have an established business identity, because the goal is to take the intellectual property, the system, the process, and to grow that and sell that, right? And so I think that's very important. So thank you. So I think I'm gonna make that a little segment. I wish I would have known. Okay. So yes. So I appreciate you for sharing that. And if we could bring all of our ladies back in just to say goodbye to everybody as we wrap up our first official day of National Small Business Week. Melva, Desiree, Tricia, thank you so much for sharing. You guys can get in touch with these ladies. If you guys can go around, we'll start with you, Ms. Coleman, and then you, Desiree, and you, Melva, and let people know how to get in touch with you.
Ooh, okay. I'll start with my picnic business first. It's www.mcftpicnics. It's at MCFT Picnics on like all social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. On Twitter, I'm Beham Food Tours. Don't ask me why. That's a whole nother stuff for another day. My email address is birmingham@mcftpicnics.com. Coleman and Company, if you just email me, ColemanCoLLC@gmail.com, I will get it. And that's all I can think of.
Okay, I'm going to put that in the email. So I'm going to put that in the email. Y'all, if y'all want to, just holler at me. Okay, Desiree, tell us the best way to get in touch with you.
You can go to my website. It's accountfordata.com. Account and 4 is FOR. So it's ACCOUNTFORDACA.com. Or you can do DTyree, DTYREE at accountfordata.com. And Alicia might have to send me that email too if y'all didn't get that.
Well, let me make it easier for you all. I'm just Melva Tate, so you can Google me, but Melva at melvatate.com, melvatate.com. Or if you want to set up a discovery session, it's www.askmelva.com. So
listen, may we all grow up and just say Google me, baby. Listen, may we all grow up to be Melva Tate. Just Google me, okay? Don't play. Nah, thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. I believe that something was said today that people will be able to take with them. That's something that's tangible, that they'll be able to help grow their business, but most importantly, help us to grow Birmingham's small business ecosystem, because we are in a very exciting time in our city. There is a lot going on, and it's important for all of our small business owners to be prepared to think about their digital, financial, and customer-centric strategy. So thank you, ladies, for sharing today.
And
we appreciate you. Yes, thank you. And we will see you guys back here tomorrow at 12 p.m. We're doing this every day at 12 p.m. And Thursday, we have an in-person event, our Wealth and Wine event. We're super excited, but we're going to be going through all things wealth building. And Friday, we will have a culminating conversation around the future of Birmingham and why Birmingham is the place to stay, to start, and to grow your business. And so we're excited about this full week of things honoring, highlighting, and learning about small business ownership. Again, thank you, ladies, and we will see you guys back here tomorrow at 12 p.m.
Bye.